6:31 on the 19th of October, the year 2020, and we are in Town Hall, and it is a select board meeting night, so let's say the Pledge of Allegiance and get this thing started. I pledge allegiance
to the flag and to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with right and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. So, got a fairly normal meeting tonight. Let's go to agenda item number 2, which are the warrants. Stanley, you have the general fund?
I have the general funds, the general warrants. 10/19/20, 88 invoices, $67,071.55. City Rec, $19,485. Line striping, $5,231. Paving, $5,002. Bay Park events, $3,196. Department of Environmental, Vermont, $2,575. And I think the Myers containers, Alan, is the tear down of the old DPW buildings that we took down. And we had 12 warrants for invoices for Green Mountain Power. We talked about this a week ago, Alan, and the total for those 12 was $3,534. But Brigham Road with $683 was the second highest. It's above our streetlights, and I think you've taken some action there.
Yeah, we've done away with the humidity controls that were keeping that big fan running all the time. So I'll be curious to see what happens in the next month.
Yeah. 'Cause I think the last time we had this was almost $800, so we've got to get it down. City tool, it's a tool that you bought, Ellen, for floor scrubbing or
That
snow
should have been
blowing?
under Al's janitorial.
That was a different one, but
Oh,
the one
the
from the
city.
city is.
City tool.
Oh, yeah. That's the snow blower that attached to the
All right. So you'll
blower.
use that on sidewalks when we're starting to do sidewalks and
So
stuff.
we've got the equipment to do it.
So it'd be good, we're thinking ahead.
We're right on there. Next time somebody asks, how are we going to maintain it in the winter? We've got the equipment.
Yeah, if we have a special event this winter, we've got the ability to do something.
Yep.
So what I just talked about was $46,645 at 70%. I'll make a motion to accept the general warrants in the amount of $67,071.55.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, Stan.
You're welcome.
Jonathan?
We got payroll warrants. I got 2 of them. One's dated October 9th for the sum of $49,719.71. It's a little high because that's the fire department payroll is on there also. The other one is for October 16th in the amount of $18,768.74. I make a motion we approve the payroll warrant for October 16th in the amount of $18,768.74.
Do the second. You can do both.
Okay. And we also approve the one dated October 9th in the amount of $49,719.71.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
I'll second it.
Oh, sorry. Still thinking. That's only been a thing for like a year and a half now. So we've got a second from Stanley.
Pardon me?
Second from Stanley?
Yes.
Okay, now, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We didn't use that call for seconds, most of the time. Aaron, you have some other warrants?
I do. I've got the infrastructure development warrant for today's date. It's actually for an invoice from Cross Consulting for salt shed work, related work. The invoice from them was dated October 8th, and Matt Young reviewed it as part of his work and approved it on the 13th. The total amount is for $4,076.17. I'll make a motion to approve the infrastructure development warrant.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is for the industrial park warrant, dated October 5th. It includes a State of Vermont invoice for $100 from V-Trans. Looks like it includes some signage as part of that. There's also the GMP sewage pump, road signs, and sign light. And that total comes to $865.43. I'll make a motion to approve the industrial park warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's it for me.
Perfect. See, that's nice. We've had a string of industrial park account warrants that are normal. And then we went through about a 12 to 18 month stretch where the occasional bill came. It was like 2,500 to 3,000 from all that pumping we've done. So all of the work that Alan and our town clerk Anna put into organizing the park tenants into making that, I think it was $160,000 investment into the pumps, paying off for the users, and kudos Alan and Anna. Okay, so we're on to minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes in front of us. October 12th, our special budget meeting last week, and then we had our regular meeting October 5th. I don't have any suggested changes. Does anybody else?
Nope.
Okay. Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good job, Jen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, public comment. Just gonna remind folks on a more regular basis that our public comment format is that we'll recognize you by name, and then we will allow for up to 3 minutes. You don't have to take that long.
I think it's 5 minutes.
I think the standard is 5, but if you have a number of people, we have ever limited it a little bit more.
Yeah, if you ask the
3
board
to 5.
members, but
Yep.
3 minutes is during a regular discussion. There is a 3-minute rule also.
We have the 3 and the 5. So, with that said, Carrie has a helpful sign to be able to help people who are zooming in when you have 30 seconds left and then it's time to stop. Carrie's our timekeeper. We're just trying to make this Zoom format a little bit easier for everyone.
Carrie.
So with that said, does anybody have a public comment? Please just raise your hand if you have a public comment, or come on and just let us know. And please start by saying your name. Okay, so if no one's going to get on, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is Harborview Phase 3 road request. We have Mr. Fitzgerald, the developer. We've accepted 2 phases of Harborview. Phase 3 is now green. Alan, I take it you've made your inspections and everything's good?
Yep.
So that said, we're just here to execute the official turning over of the road to the town for these 2 sections. We've got maps. It's a 465-foot section and a 359-foot section. There's of course stormwater and sidewalks. And, we have agreements in place, and those were all in our packets. Does anybody have any questions about that before we entertain any motions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. It seems like when we did phase 1, and I'm going to support this, Mr. Fitzgerald, but when phase 1 we had to have a turnaround for the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a turnaround for this 2 additional areas?
Good point.
It's densely populated in some areas, and I don't know if Alan, you got room for your trucks?
I do have for my truck, the 369-foot lane. We were already going up that to turn around. They keep it cleared. It's a roadway that goes out to the solar farm out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The other section, the 469-foot section, they're still doing construction, but I met with the contractors, they're gonna keep an area for us to turn around.
Okay, good,
We will.
that satisfies my question.
Perfect.
Alright.
Yeah.
Are they gonna put a cul-de-sac at each ending of the roadways up there for that purpose, a truck turnaround and bus turnaround? Because as I understand it, the buses don't go all the way to the end of that
I don't think they do. So there's one cul-de-sac.
because of the dangers in turning around up there. That's what my understanding is.
Mr. Fitzgerald, would you like to speak to that?
Go ahead, Bill.
My understanding is, the school bus goes down to the first section of Harborview and then backs in, picks up the kids and then heads out. And there are probably 4 or 5 kids that have to walk 400 feet to get to the bus. But I think once the loop's done, the bus can go all the way up around without turning around. But for the moment, that's what they've been doing, which I think is probably the safest way.
So, Bob, this will be a complete loop when it's done.
Okay.
It's not gonna dead end on each end.
All right.
Then
Just
we-
be consistent as far as fire trucks go too. I mean, when we have somebody put in, like a
Right.
family housing development, they either have to put a cul-de-sac in or a place for trucks to turn around.
Right. There's
Paved.
specific standards that we've adopted. And,
Right.
You know, if you're 6 houses or more, you have to pave it.
Okay.
If anybody has any other questions, Chief, we're all good. Does anybody want to make a motion to take over this phase 3, approve it for our road ordinance, road standards?
I'll make a motion to accept Harborview Phase 3, both the 465-foot section and the 359-foot sections as a public road.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a 4-0. So, Mr. Fitzgerald, thank you very much. Do you have any questions of the board or our
Okay.
staff?
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank
have a
you,
good
Bill.
night.
Take care.
Okay, so that's what happens when you're in a growing town. You gotta take roads over. Permanent projects, be prepared. It's the right thing to do. I'm glad we did that. So, on to agenda item 6, the town manager's report. We have Jen Wood here from Green Mountain Transit. And she's here to talk about their revised route information and discuss next year's plans. So Jen, whenever you're ready, take it away.
I'm gonna share my screen with her, and I always have a brain
Well,
cramp when it comes
you
Well,
to
you're gonna make her the
You have to
host.
make her the host.
Mhm.
And how does she do that?
Go to the top right corner of Jen's picture.
Yeah.
Oh, Jen's
Jen.
picture.
See, we
Okay.
were doing
Three
that.
Yeah, we were going too
incorrectly.
far. 3 dots. Yep.
And should be make host.
Yep.
And Jen, just remember to give that back to us before you leave. If you
I will, although, let's see, okay, all right, I can, well, first let me just not share my screen for a second, just say hello. I hope everybody's doing well. It's nice to mostly see all of you. I'm trying to look around the room here. But yeah, I am wishing you well, and sorry I can't be there in person, and thanks for your service on this one. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of slides, and some stuff I assume you probably already know, but just a quick review, and then we'll also like to leave it open to questions, and assume that you've seen the FY22 funding request, which is part of what I'll talk about. So that was sent just within the last week or so. So let me just share screen. Sorry. All right, are you seeing a big
Yep.
Green Mountain Transit slide?
We are.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So, yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna go through a couple quick stats about who we are. So 1973, CCTA was created as the state's first and only actual transit authority. And then CCTA and GMTA merged in 2016. And that's when we really expanded into the more rural areas, including Franklin County, and serving 5 other counties. And we're governed by a board of 13 commissioners. Catherine Dimitrick, which I'm not sure if she was able to log on today, but she represents Franklin through the Northwest Regional Planning Commission for your area. And so, I think these are just some of the services. We have lots of fixed routes, commuter links, like the one that we have coming into St. Albans, and then some different demand response, services for kind of medical rides, as listed here. And then we do other weekly grocery shopping trips, seasonal mountain service, obviously not in your area, but in other areas, so in Mad River Valley. And microtransit is a new initiative that we have coming, which I'll speak to in a few minutes. So I know when I was visiting you last year, I kind of gave a one-pager that would look at the way the kind of the funding works for the urban versus rural. So urban, this is a look at urban for our last reported fiscal year, FY20, which is essentially Chittenden County. So this is how it breaks down in terms of where we get our funds from federal, state, the local match, which is part of what I'm requesting here through the funding request. But on the Chittenden side, it's managed a little bit different. Those towns are what we call member towns, so they're automatically assessed in amount, which is supposed to be 20%. We get about 80% funds from either state or federal, and we're supposed to make up the other 20%. So in that instance, we do get that because it's regulated by the power of taxation. In the rural areas, it's a little different. It's just coming to select boards, as I'm doing here, and requesting the towns based on what we call a fair share equation, which we calculate using census data and other factors to look at, and the routes and you have in your area, and determine what the cost would be for each of the rural towns. So this is just a look at the rural funding. As you'll see, there's a little bit bigger on the federal side, a little less on the state, and then the local match. That's a challenge that we've had, not getting the 20% in towns. And then we have other, kind of services. The NEMT is non-emergency medical transit services, which also brings in more. We have more of that in the rural areas that we manage ourselves. So this is just a quick look at the last FY19, where we have full tracked passengers and how many rides we actually gave. And a chunk of that you can see is in the urban core, but a number of fixed routes in the rural side, which includes Franklin County, in Albans. And I just want to make sure folks, I took a screenshot of this today. So this is our homepage, and you can track, we also have apps, transit app, which you can see real time where the routes are. And this is also on our homepage. So if you're wondering where a bus might be, if you don't want to have to wait out in the cold, you can always Google this and in the working comfort of wherever you happen to be, and then go out and find the buses. So the buses have all been equipped with these kind of location monitors to track where they are on the different routes. And so, just to look at St. Albans Town, so we, for FY20, and this was in the request, so I sent the funding request letter and then the annual report. And so this is just a distilled version of that, looking at what services we provide to St. Albans. So for that, for the non-fixed route, kind of elderly and disabled Medicaid rides for FY20, there was just under 15,000 total trips by St. Albans residents. And in this year, as we're doing with all towns, just given the challenges in COVID and everything that comes with that, just requesting a level funding from what we have submitted last year, which is $5,200 is what we requested from St. Albans Town. And as I mentioned earlier, the fair share equation, when we look at kind of the full, what if St. Albans Town were to pay its 20%, that's that 26,317 figure. I think when I met last year, we talked about kind of incrementally increasing a percent year over year, but obviously we're not going to try to do that in a time when everything is tight on budgets across the spectrum. And then just the different routes that come in to St. Albans or serve the town. These are listed here, just the different shuttles and commuters that we have and how many rides were given on the last fiscal year. And then quickly, a couple, initiatives that we're working on. So with COVID, as you can imagine, the ridership went down a good bit. It's come back up a little bit with, students coming back and people starting to go back to work a little bit more, but there was a dramatic reduction. And one of the things which is still going on is a fare free for all of our routes, just mainly for safety, for even the bigger buses, passengers board in the back, and this way, you don't have to fiddle with fare or engage close with the drivers. So that's one of the many safety measures that we've implemented in addition to lots of cleaning and that the drivers can do on a regular basis, but we have one of those fancy big sprayer cleaners that happens twice a day. So lots of measures to make sure that we could provide the service. And during the real kind of when the pandemic first started, we were really requesting that it just be essential trips, people that had to get to work or essential medical appointments. And of course, masks are required on all GMT buses. And we have boarding limits, for different size buses, depending upon how big it is. We have limitations to how many people will allow on there just to be able to provide for proper distancing. I alluded to this earlier, some different technology upgrades so we can track the buses real time and see where they are, either on the GMT homepage page, as I mentioned, or the transit app is an app that you can download and track the buses. And the microtransit, which is something that a lot of towns, and I would imagine St. Albans would be keeping a keen eye on, it is going to be launched in the very beginning of January in Montpelier as a trial pilot, and it'll be the first time or the smallest city town that will have implemented this type of microtransit service, which is essentially on demand. So right now we have 3 circulator routes throughout Montpelier, and those are going to go away, and it'll be just kind of like an Uber, on demand, where it's not going to be a fixed route, but it'll actually pick you up where you are, presumably within 15 minutes, and drop you to your location. But it'll be coordinated with a software that'll align with who's requested where and pick people up and then distribute them accordingly on their path. And it merges Medicaid rides. So this is going to be a way in which people that are choosing to ride versus who maybe have a medical appointment. The software allows the system to differentiate because those have different funding streams. And so again, a lot of eyes are kind of on this to see how it works, because it could, if it works well in Montpelier, I don't see why, St. Albans and St. Johnsbury and other places could perhaps utilize this type of service to get more transit. Or I live in Grand Isle, so maybe in the islands we have Cider, but that's about it besides the bus that goes to Albert. So I know there's a lot of folks here eager to look at maybe taking the lessons learned from the microtransit. And, just some other stats here about fleet replacement. Obviously, each type of bus has an age limit on it, and that we are also looking at fleet electrification. So we have 2 buses, 2 large, what we call Gillig buses, manufactured by Proterra, that are now in circulation in Chittenden County, and 2 cutaways, which are the smaller buses that you'll see, like the ones kind of go to the hospital in St. Albans, that they're going to come to operate for Central Vermont. So there's still room to get buses for Franklin and St. Albans. And then kind of ongoing plans that we always work on are the Transit Strategic Plan Development and the Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, which is obviously, I'm sure you can imagine, particularly heightened with COVID and making sure we have health officer and all these processes in place, and those are regular plans every few years that we're updating. So that's it. That's a picture of one of the electric buses when it was in Burlington. So I think I'll stop sharing and just see if folks have questions, comments, concerns, and then I will make sure I make you the host again, Carrie.
Thank you.
So, Jen, your $5,200 funding request is a tad over 0.1% of our annual budget, so I don't think you'll be up against too tough of a...
I'm not hearing all of it, sorry.
So your $5,200 funding request is just over 0.1% of our total general fund budget, so I don't think you'll be in an uphill battle to maintain that. We should be able to send that along. It would take a little over 0.5% to fund the full local, fair share portion, the $26,000 and change. So, we can incrementally get to that when COVID's over, I'm sure. Especially if the program that you're rolling out in Montpelier were to work and then be implemented in the St. Albans city and town, I think you'd definitely see more of a public appetite to increase our funding share, for sure. So definitely keep us posted. Does anybody have any questions for Jen?
No, I just wanted to say I'm really excited about the micro transit option that you're going to roll out and to see how that turns out. How are the fares going to work on that? Do you know, is it a flat rate or is it mileage?
I think it's a flat rate. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get that to you, and it'll be, well, you can also call in if you don't have, a mobile device. Otherwise, you can just purchase it right on the app. I want to say it's $1 a ride that they're starting out with, just to keep it low and to, hopefully allow a lot more passengers to be able to use it. Although right now we are fare free, and I'm not sure how long that's going to go. But if I can get the figures on the fare for you for that. But yeah, there's a lot of eyes on it, like I said, so that it could be a model really to replicate, particularly in the rural areas, and as you stand outside of say Albans Town and getting people to come in, for work, providing that flexibility of on demand. So, and one other thing I forgot to mention, and whether it's now or if folks ever want to follow up with an email or a phone call, is that I'm trying to, because there's about 50 or so towns that I manage in this way, and it's hard to kind of continually attend all the select board meetings, so I'm trying to find what would be most useful for towns. If it's, I don't want to just make another newsletter that's just going to be burdening people's inbox, but if there's, things that you think might be helpful in terms of communication with the town, so about things like microtransit, if there's some sort of regular type of communication mechanism that you're interested in, please let me know at any time. That would be functional. I want it to be, beneficial for the select boards. So.
I had a question as far as, Jen, have you heard from riders of what the experience has been like for them from the beginning of COVID to now, and what GMT has meant or where it's played a role in their lives during the pandemic?
I didn't, let me just try to rephrase it. I missed some of that. So have I heard from riders as far as how the ridership has impacted them, or what was the question?
Yeah, just I'm curious about rider feedback, maybe satisfaction feedback that you've received or GMT has received about the service during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think we also did a survey, which was more looking at kind of what's going to make people, what people liked and didn't like that we did in terms of particularly safety protocols, and what's going to make people feel comfortable to come back, because rightfully a lot of people are reticent and hesitant to use public transit. But yeah, I think the fact that we got a lot of positive feedback around, it was that we were really sending the message to make sure that the buses were available for essential trips, for these essential workers and for the essential medical trips. And so I think people appreciated that. And a lot of people weren't just riding anyway, but just acknowledging that we were really trying to make that the focus, because it was a very different approach. Normally I'm going out trying to expand rural transit, and normally we're trying to be as efficient as possible with routes. But we were actually having to be inefficient and discourage ridership to an extent, just because we wanted to make sure that those people that needed the service had the service. And we've been tracking ridership daily to look at the numbers and making sure that we can meet demand and have the proper number of buses deployed for the people that need them. And of course we've had to cut down some service when there's been limited capacity. So you can imagine there's some individuals that that has impacted who, where there's only a couple people on. I think there's a couple link, one in the morning and one in the afternoon for the St. Albans link, that had, very low ridership, and so we let go of some routes and across our service area because of that. But as it builds up, we will pick up those routes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Jerry? All good?
All right, thank you very much, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you for the time. All right, let me just sit.
Yes, thank you.
What do I have to do?
So you go to Carrie Johnson.
Click on my
Okay.
screen and just on the top right 3 dots.
Oh, May Coast.
Mhm.
I think I just did it. Let me know
You're all
before I
set.
sign off.
You're all set.
You
Thank
did.
you, Jen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Have a good night. Okay. That was very informative. Hopefully that works out in Montpelier. That sounds very interesting. Okay, so we're on to the fire department truck bid review. We have 3 different bids. Just get them opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have 3 bids. One is from the Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus Company, by the sound of it, from Union Grove, Alabama. So let's get this open and see what we got for a number. So this one is for $175,400, and they would like to have their offers only open until October 31st, and they would like the truck before February 28th. We have a fire apparatus company from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with our second bid. And this is for $115,500. So I'm going to put that to the bottom of the pile. And we have one from the town of Georgia, which is in St. Albans, Vermont. So let's see what the town of Georgia put together for us. $190,000. So I would say, unless the chief has another recommendation, that we approve a transaction with the town of Georgia for that amount of money.
Well, we were hoping to get a little bit more than that, but
You're hoping?
I think that they're gonna have to paint it and everything, and so I think we can accept that bid.
We keep the truck local.
Yeah.
Help another fire department.
Absolutely.
That helps. And you guys do mutual aid together quite
Yes.
often.
And this is for the, just briefly describe.
This is for the 2005 75-foot Quint. Ours is in the process of being built right now. It's a year late, but because of COVID and other demands that Ocala had for E1, it got delayed a little bit. So we should be taking delivery December or January for that truck, hopefully.
This letter from the town of Georgia Fire Department is so brief, I'd like to read it. Dear St. Albans Town Selectboard, the Georgia Fire Department would like to bid $190,000 for the 2005 E1 75-foot Quint. This funding has been approved by the Georgia Town Selectboard for the current calendar year. If accepted, the truck would remain available for mutual aid requests as needed. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Keith Baker, Georgia Fire Chief. So, we've got a recommendation from the chief. You need a motion from us to be able to do that, or just consensus?
I don't think I need a motion, but it would be great since you're all here.
Okay.
And the funds to go back into the reserve fund.
Right.
Right.
Perfect. So, we need a motion to accept the Georgia Fire Department's bid for $190,000 for our 2005 E1 75-foot Quint truck, with the funds to be deposited into the fire department apparatus reserve fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions for the chief?
I just have a quick one for the chief. Bob, this is a 2005, are we right in our rotation where you want to be right now with truck rotations out of there?
We are. We're a little behind with the ladder. The ladder was supposed to have been done last year, but we're still good.
You're happy with?
We're happy, yep. So, and this is gonna help us move one of our other trucks up just a little bit, the rescue slash pumper that we're gonna
Good.
start specking out the following year, for not this year, but for next year's.
And the important thing is, this is not an increase for the taxpayers.
Not
Correct.
at all. It's all previously collected funds, and
Correct.
this is us selling something that was already paid for with no loan on it, with the money to go back into the fund to buy more money, to buy more equipment and pay cash with no loans. You've done a remarkable job managing the department's finances.
Everybody that's had a process of it has done a remarkable job, so.
Everybody.
Very fun.
Been great. We're in a great spot. So,
Yep.
have we? Remind me, have we taken the vote yet?
No.
No, we
Is it a
haven't.
second?
We did.
Mhm.
From Jonathan.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. So, we have these documents
Awesome.
for you. Do you like
Thank you.
I don't need them.
Okay, all set.
Great,
Phone call.
Perfect.
thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Have a good
Yeah.
night. Okay. That worked out well.
Awesome.
Honor Wall Committee. Carrie gave us a warning at our last regular meeting. We needed to come forward with an idea. Does anybody have an idea that they'd like to share?
Well, this is for the actual committee of folks, right?
Yep.
So from the Planning Commission, I'd like to nominate Ann Pomeroy Larner to be the Planning Commission representative on
Okay.
that. Yep, and I checked in with her, and she said that she would be thrilled to be a part of that.
Let me ask you this. it seems like this is gonna be something that's gonna be hard to staff, especially if it only meets once a year. So I'm wondering if it should be a bunch of, instead of individual people, if it should be, like, I made a list of 7 individuals. It'd be the fire chief, the town manager, the town clerk, the select board chair, vice chair, the planning commission chair, vice chair, the DRB chair, vice chair, and the parks committee chair, vice chair. It's a total of 7. It's kind of like it just comes with the, you get it when you're an officer of a volunteer committee, or when you're the fire chief, the manager, or the clerk. I didn't know if that might be the most helpful way. That way it's not a conversation every year, it's a reminder that you have to attend the meeting. I don't know if that's...
That works for me. You could also add or appointed alternate or
Right.
something.
Or appointed
someone else
alternates.
from the committee.
Right?
Yeah. I think I'm on just knowing my own ability to commit to meetings at this point. You know, I think if Anne was to take my spot
Yeah.
on that, and then the vice chair for the planning commission was to join that group as well, I think that would be a good.
Well, it'd be one or the other,
Oh,
like the
one
chair
or
or
the
the
other.
vice
Okay.
chair.
Yep.
So it'd
Yeah.
be, that way you get a little bit of flexibility into it.
Mhm.
Also, I think it's important to recognize that the fire department needs to play a role in this, because I think, you know, some of our honorees, it might eventually come from the fire department. So just setting that right in stone that the fire chief will be a working member of the committee seems like a good
I think
idea.
somebody from the Justice of the Peace, normally they're people that have been on one of the committees here in town for years, and they're very knowledgeable, and everybody in the town. And
Why don't we take the select board member off and add a member of the Board of Civil Authority?
yeah, that would,
Member of BCA.
And I think as at least how we wrote it, or at least how it was written before, we were going to have folks from the public as well. Is this a chance for us to just put out to the public? Do you want to be a part of it and to nominate themselves to be a part of this group? Or are you suggesting that we not maybe just go with the proposal that you have instead?
I think we put the panel together, and this is just an idea. I think we put the panel together of people who are volunteering, and then encourage members of the public to make the nominations and to defend them. You know, come to the meeting, state your case in front of a panel of informed current volunteers, and that's just a vision for it. That doesn't need to be the reality. It's just a place to start. But I like the idea of, you know, you get a member of the Parks Committee, the BCA, to Stan's point, DRB, Planning Commission, you get the clerk's office, the town manager, and then the fire chief. I think that's a pretty rock solid group. And then, you know, in an ideal world, we'll have done such a nice job publicizing it that we'll get the public making more than one nomination a year. So that'll be an interesting way for the public to be able to get engaged. And then if it seems like it's not inclusive enough, we can always amend it. Just seems like if we make it, you know, 5 to 7 members of the public, or even 3 members of the public, it's going to be tough. Especially a little later on, we're going to talk about the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and staffing that. So I was thinking it might not be good to have competing committees to staff. It'd be nice to just lay one out, this is what it's going to be, and then go work on the police advisory or public safety advisory. But again, it's just an idea. It doesn't have to be.
I think I think having it, so I'm imagining that once we're scheduling it, you would send, or there would be an email that would get sent to the chair and vice chair, or,
Right.
you know, to see, and then between the two of them, one of them will attend.
Yes.
Yep. So I think, you know, just speaking from the planning commission perspective, I think that would be, you know, a good fit, and I would endorse that idea. I think that for this year, and also since I've had that strange dual role,
Yeah.
to be able to have Anne be my alternate, and then have our vice chair also get that email in case one of them can't make
Definitely. It'd be Jen that would be putting that
Mhm.
meeting together, so
it.
you got very thorough. I'm sure it'd be good. Again, if Bob Cross, I mean, I wish I would have brought it up before he left, but if he couldn't make it, maybe the deputy chief, or maybe an officer. You know, it's just, I think we should it'd be healthy if we would see a nominee with a fire department background. I think that's something that we've got to point to as a shining light of municipal services that we provide, because it's one of the most important, and it's also one of the most cost effective, at least in our case, as we've seen. I mean, they run a top-notch department on a little better than a shoestring, and they do it by design, not by force, so we're lucky. What do you think, Jonathan?
I like that idea.
That's a good idea.
Carrie, what do you think? Volunteering you for another committee, feel free to veto.
I don't think, honestly, that I should be on that committee. I can staff that committee, but I'm not sure that I need to vote. My job is to support the nominees, the appointees and the people on our boards, not to vote on that.
Do you think there should be some kind of a member from the administrative staff?
I will certainly, I don't think it's necessary. I think this is a feel-good process, and it should be, I can staff it, make sure it's fair, but I don't know that I need a vote, I don't need to be a voting member.
So what do you think we should do in place of the manager on that?
I think we've got a lot of people here, and they elect their own chair. When they begin meeting, they're only gonna meet probably 3 times, I would bet,
Maybe once or twice, yeah.
in order to have a decision or a recommendation to the select board by March.
Yeah, and this specific laid out thing had 7 people in there. That's,
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, if not the manager, then who do you think in place of the manager?
Does it have to be 7?
We cut it to 5. We just want it to be odd.
Mm-hmm.
I figured 5 was a little narrow. We could have a member of the public appointed by the select board in place of the manager. There's a million different ways we could do it.
I could stay on there if you want it to be 7. I'm fine with that. I don't know if it's necessary.
You probably need the person from the public, that's the person that's nominating that individual
Yeah.
to come, because the committee may have a lot of questions, and that person who nominated them would be knowledgeable in.
Right, you want that to happen every time. Definitely.
Right. So,
If Carrie's not gonna be one of the 7 committee members, like who do we put in her place as?
but information needs to go to Carrie or Jen, and she can have it distributed to
Yeah.
the committee. Then if you get a number that show up, then they sit down and have that discussion. It's, yeah, honestly, I don't think it needs to be the chair or the vice chair, but if you're tied up, it could be any one of the board. Doesn't matter who. No.
That's fair. Yeah, this current list that I had before we took Carrie out, I crossed select board right off and put BCA in place of that. I thought that was what we were.
Yeah,
We've got a member of the BCA. I have Parks Committee chair, vice chair. It can just be Parks Committee member. We could do it so that we just have the Planning Commission, DRB, and Parks Committee appoint a representative each year. And it doesn't have to be the chair or vice chair. I just figured that would narrow the conversation down and make it so that it didn't have to happen officially in a meeting. That way, if the
you could have somebody from the sheriff's department, it's
Good.
a lot of people you could reach out to that have the ability to
Well, why don't we-
research.
Why don't we cross off town manager and put member of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for now? And then if we change policing services providers in 3 years, we can amend that. They might witness an act of heroism that they want.
Yes,
Or they might know of
absolutely.
something.
Or what if we just put policing service provider?
Yeah, member of okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we do that in place of manager, policing services provider? So do we want to do chair, vice chair, or member appointed of?
Just a
Member appointed, yeah.
Okay, easy enough. So we'll type this out, we'll have it figured out, and we can get the meeting right after the holidays. That sounds, we'll formalize the process, and we'll start putting it out right after the first of the year that we're accepting nominations. I think it'd be nice if we accepted nominations for the month of January, and then maybe had this committee meet in February, March. Maybe we could announce who the honoree was on town meeting day, you know, when people come to the polls, they could see a little write-up and maybe the picture at the complex or wherever we vote in the future. If the committee can formalize it, so, you know.
Mhm.
But thank you for pushing us to formalize that, Carrie. We appreciate it. Probably would have got put on the back burner for another couple of months.
Putting it on our calendar, you can push it forward if you want, but I'm glad you made a decision, it's all good.
You need a motion to approve this as a policy.
It's
You
a,
want to take care of that next meeting?
if you need a motion, I mean, it's a recommendation, it's a steering committee, you don't have, it doesn't have to.
Oh, we accept their
Right.
recommendation.
Yep,
So that makes better sense as to why there's no select board members on them, because we're the committee at the end.
they're making you the recommendation to you, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last thing under town manager is the town hall update. We do have 2 questions on the ballot. Many people have already voted, and quite a few more I hear are continuing to vote. We did have an open house on October 7th, and we are sharing our plans on social media. So if you haven't seen that or want a copy, we have a plan showing you where the land is, what our potential floor plan looks like, the conceptual vision of the town hall itself. If you need a tour or would like a tour, please call Brendan or I. We can give you an individual tour of the existing town hall. I don't know what else you want me to.
Last week, we had an interview with WCAX Monday about the proposed health path crossing across the St. Albans State Highway. Carrie met later in the week with Michael Frett from the Messenger, and we had a good write-up about the town hall and the Messenger. We just had another interview with WCAX tonight, the same reporter, about the town hall. We took some footage. I even ventured down into the basement since it's spooky season. If there's anywhere haunted in St. Albans Town, it's that basement, if I had to guess. I took a picture and sent it to my grandfather because he went to school here. I took a picture of the bathroom and sent it to him. He texted me back and said, it hasn't changed at all. So,
It's disturbing.
take it. So there you go. Last week I filmed a 45-minute segment with our animal control officer, Dave McWilliams, at Local Access about the town hall. He had called Carrie the Friday before and said, somebody should come on Local Access and give an update about that. So Carrie called me and relayed the message, and I said, call David back and tell him Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And we made it work. So that should be airing if it hasn't already. We did our bi-weekly, the mayor and I do a bi-weekly episode of For the Record with Richard Copperthwaite, Wednesdays, 7:45 to 8:15. So that was a good topic of discussion. It was a new town hall. WCAX said to expect a brief shout out about it tonight at 11, and that it would be online, so we'll take their link if we like it, of course, and we'll put it on social media in the morning. I'm working with Mason Maschera. I got really tied up between the interviews and my day job that we haven't finalized the video, and that's on me and no one else. Mason's done an excellent job editing it together. At this point, I think we might text him and just ask him to put some type of a title as we go from room to room and just write it up in lieu of recording actual narrations of the video, so we can get that out there. Between Mason Maschera and Armin Messier with his drone videography, we have a pretty good video edited together, and we're going to get that out. I've got to get in touch with Mason tomorrow. That's totally my fault. We had the open house last week. How many of us were there? There was like four of us, and Carrie
And
Anna. So that's 6. So we had 7 people attend. I'll let you do the math on that one if anybody's watching at home. So we decided that instead of doing weekly town hall open houses like we had planned, you can have your open house tour whenever you want. Just call Carrie 524-7589 extension 5. You can call Anna 524-2415. You can call me on my cell. We'll get you hooked up with a nice tour, and you can see the dungeon downstairs with the old bathroom straight out of 1954. Anytime you want to come by. So Does anybody have any ideas for, we gotta hit social media pretty hard this week, about the town hall and our Halloween costume contest. We've had a few submissions, and it seemed like we would give folks another couple of weeks to get their costumes together. We're gonna make a good push this week, so look to be seeing some submissions from me. So schedule, we've got a regular meeting Monday, November 2nd, and another one Monday, November 16th. The budget meeting on 10/26, usually we review half the budget in one sitting, takes about 3 hours, and then we come back again and spend another 3 hours going through the last half of the budget. The only thing we have left that we didn't get through Monday night, since the staff did such an excellent job preparing a fairly level-funded budget, was the local, regional, and state organizations. And Jen said that that timeline wouldn't necessarily jive with when she receives the letters that we were looking to see anyway. So I'm thinking about canceling that 5:30 meeting. That doesn't solve the problem with having to judge the costume contest, so I'm wondering if we might want to do that at 6 o'clock or 6:30 or even 7. Do it straight up by Zoom, no in-person meeting. The host can take over and do some screen sharing, and we can go through the submissions that way. That way we can all do it from the comfort of our houses. It shouldn't take any more than an hour, I wouldn't think. Does that sound fair to everybody? Maybe turn it into a little bit of a Halloween festivity for the board,
Sure.
socially distanced.
Mhm.
So on the 26th, we'll do that.
Right, in lieu of the budget meeting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a 5:30 off the plate. I think it'd be nice to do it at like 7, give a chance to get home and unwind a little bit. Well, how's that sound to everybody?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yep.
Zoom meeting work for you, Stan? Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to come to my place if you'd like. I'd be happy to have you. Anybody have anything they'd like to add to schedule? Okay, so Monday, November 2nd, we'll have Tuesday, November 3rd, Election Day. We heard from Anna at her budget meeting, she's got it figured out. One thing that I'd like to point out is that we talked about getting another tabulator, and Anna actually received a grant to cover 90% of the cost of the second tabulator last week. She sent me the information. So kudos to Anna. I called her, I couldn't get her. She's got a hectic schedule at the moment with how busy she is. But kudos to Anna, that's a really, really awesome development for us. So we'll have a second tabulator, maybe not for this election, but maybe for March. I think is how that read. Maybe we might have it sooner. But thank you to Anna for getting that done. Another great development out of the clerk's office. So on to my report. Police Advisory Committee, Jessica and I have been talking about this off and on for months now. I sat down for 2 hours Saturday trying to redo the framework for it and kind of got frustrated and gave up and said, I'm going to go to the board Monday night and I'm going to ask, what do you want it to look like? Either loosely structured or extremely structured. I don't know that there's a middle ground. I can't really, we either have to tell them when they're going to meet, what they're going to talk about, or we have to just say, you constitute this, we would like these few things out of you, figure it out. I can't, I personally want to go with the very structured route because you get more metrics out of it, you can judge the performance a little bit better, but I think there might be better value in lifting up marginalized voices if it's a looser structure. So I'm trying, I can't find the balance. I've tried it and I don't know, Jessica's had some good responses from Migrant Justice.
Yeah, Migrant Justice has someone who lives in town who wants to be on the board, who works on farm, and I can't think of the name of the group, but they stand up by the corner and with the honk for racism signs. They have someone from the town who wants to be in the group. So they just said, let us know when and when it's happening.
Yeah, I've also heard from folks in the community, they're just interested, and they said, you know, how can I get involved? And, you know, I wonder if part of it would be, you know, I think that there's value to having perhaps some set aside seats on the board for different community groups so that there is a more set representation to make sure that we're hearing from groups. But I wonder if from the community, I think I saw in the city that for their board they have an application process I don't know if we would want to do something similar, because I don't know if we want to fill the board necessarily like a first come, first serve, because that may not, you know,
Want to treat
work
it like
either.
any other. It would be appointed entirely by the select board unless there was a set aside seat for a specific officer or some other town volunteer committee or a, you know, like you can't appoint the sheriff to serve on it. But I don't. Do you want? I guess my question is, do you want it regimented with? Do you want a 4-page policy or a 1-page? Is I guess what I'm asking. I need to either you give me the direction, I'll run with it, but I can't make up. I don't think there's a good 2.5-page policy to be written. I think it's one side or the other.
Could we do a 1-pager and then have the application inform the committee and then let them come up and we can approve
I think it's
the metrics or what they want to look at?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd be in favor of, and, you know, even if, whether we went with a 1-pager or a 4-pager, to have the committee actually review that policy and, or review the structure and come back to us with a recommendation for how the committee would be structured going forward and what they're gonna, you know, how they're gonna structure their time and report back.
So as far, I'm good with that, and that's what I'll have it ready for November 2nd. Second question is, at one point I had a list in a policy of certain people from certain groups. I think that I'd like to eliminate a lot of the seats that were reserved for folks that were already involved with the town in favor of opening that up for, like I think that Phoenix House that opened in place of NMC's prevention program, restorative justice, NCSS, maybe one always reserved for migrant justice if that's the case. And we've got to, how many people do you think will be too many to not be effective? And how many seats do you want out of that number open for the public? And then I can come up with some good community assets to reserve seats in place of. I think I need at least 4 to be able to hit all those groups. So I was thinking leave 3 open to general members of the public. I think you want somebody with a law enforcement background. I think that would be helpful. Just as long as it's balanced, I think we're going to be in good shape. But we've got to get the thing up and running. I'm a month and a half behind where we wanted to land. So if that sounds good, you know, 4 reserves, 3 open to the public, total of 7. Then you have the town manager and the sheriff or the sheriff's representative staff it together. I think that makes a lot of sense. Stan, what do you think?
I'm good with the lower numbers right now.
Okay. And you think
You can always build it up.
yeah, if it's really successful and we have more people and we want to turn away, it's as simple as making a motion with a policy. So
Yeah, no, I think that sounds good. I think it's important just to get it up and running, and because none of us are experts in that area or what's going on, and we can't speak to. We're probably missing somebody or some group, so just to have some openness to allow members of the community to be on the board, I think is a good idea.
and how do we what would be the best way to network about this? Do we have a contact list of folks who work for these different places, or do you want me to just hunt down some names and emails? And
I have a few of them. I have my 2 contacts that I've already been talking to in restorative justice.
so why don't I'll work on the policy if you want to work on tracking contact information down.
Yeah.
And we touch base the week before the 3rd, put it all together and have it in your packets. That's
And I might have a contact for Phoenix House too, if that was someone
yeah,
that
please.
we,
If you could send that, that'd be great. Thank God that they opened. It's critical. Maybe the Howard Center. I mean, you with Jessica was rising here with the Howard Center. I mean, you know what the general framework is for our community and what resources are available. So if we're missing somebody, and we can, like Stan said, we can push it to 9 if we decide that we want to have more reserved seats. But I think keeping 3 open for general members of the public would be a bare minimum.
That's a lot of seats to fill.
It is.
yeah. And I think the groups that we're starting with, they're not just going to be coming with their own organization perspectives. They're going to they're intersecting with members of the community and other organizations as well. They're sitting on a lot of different boards, a lot of different committees. They're hearing from not just their own constituents, which is a big part of it, but they're gonna hear from, so I think that, exactly what Jessica was saying, like, they're gonna know who we're missing. They're gonna know who needs to be at the table, both the members of the public and the organizations and groups that we're thinking about reaching to.
So, my last question is, the 4 reserved out of the 7 that we're talking about, obviously we can't dictate that every organization send us a town resident because they might not have one to send. So my question is, do we want it to be part of the policy that a quorum of the committee be made up of town residents at all time? I don't know if that's necessary. I could see the public saying, well, you've put together a group of people, a majority of whom don't even live here, and they're advising us on how to police. That could be an issue. So I don't know if we want to nip that in the bud or see if it's even an issue to begin with. I mean, I can throw it in there just to have it.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, we should try to seek out people who live in the town who can fill both those roles.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good. Alright, so we'll bring that back and we'll have it ready to go. Anybody have any other business?
I just to give everybody a heads up, I did receive a phone call from someone who was walking in the town forest, and we're taken aback that people were hunting in there. So with it being hunting season, hunting is allowed in the town forest right now. So make sure you wear your orange up there. Have your, something on your pet too if you're walking your dog. I don't know, Alan, did we ever put a sign up there saying hunting season?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I wonder if we should just put something up there on that bulletin board.
I wonder what it would take to buy a few yards of bright orange cloth, cut them into like bandana-sized squares, just so people could have it. Like if you didn't bring it, here's a little thing to pull one out. You can either leave it to be washed and reused or keep it. Something big enough to be able to tie around a dog, but also something big enough to be able to wear as a person. I don't know if that would be. I mean, we want to drive traffic up there, and we also want to be able to keep people hunting like they have for decades. So, I guess if we keep hearing,
Maybe some orange tape, but I don't want to be responsible for washing something and having it being reused right now.
Especially now.
But a piece of, like they use to mark property or something.
Okay, so I see we have somebody joining our meeting right at the end. Is that the representative from CAS?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we need to move into executive session to discuss a personnel issue and to also discuss
Contractual.
some ongoing contractual stuff. Anybody like to make a motion and to invite the town manager and Jeremy Roberts from KAS Consulting, I think is what
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or persons involved at substantial disadvantage, and further move to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues under the provision of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes, and to invite the town manager and the representative from CAS.
I'll second that.
beautifully done.